Okay, good afternoon. Call a meeting to order. Mauricio?
Commissioner Viscara,
Here.
Commissioner Stuyvesant,
Here.
Vice Mayor Joseph. Commissioner
Here.
Lama is not able to attend tonight or today. Mayor Svechin,
Here.
we have a quorum, ma'am.
Okay, great, thank you. Before we start, I'm going to say something more at our 6:30 meeting. I just want to recognize the tragedy and the horror that happened, the attack in Israel. So I would just like everyone to, if we can have a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Commissioner Heyman, hi. Normally during workshops, we have not been doing Pledge of Allegiance, but I would like to make sure that we do that here for you. So would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Got a couple of them. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, thank you. So, just gonna hide in the back. I know that we have one student in the audience. There is a sign-in sheet in the back if you'd like to sign in for Ms. Alejandra's class back there when you walk in. Just make sure to do that before you leave. Okay, so we have someone in the audience that we are recognizing today that I've been trying to catch now for some time, but she's been traveling, very well-deserved traveling. This is someone that I have known for a number of years, but this is a friend to our community for many, many years. We have a statement prepared for you, ma'am, Mrs. Heyman. If you can just come up so you're on the camera. Oh. Of course not. All right.
Thank God.
Are you okay with waiting? We'll just move it. Okay, absolutely. So I'll get to say this again. All right. So then we'll go to the original agenda, and which is now to be Introduction to the Intracoastal Police Athletic League.
So we have the same problem.
Okay.
In about a minute, so.
But look, Commissioner Lama has arrived. So, all right. Now, if there's no objection.
No objection. I do have an add-on that maybe we can, if he's here ready. Mauricio, how do I do it? I ask for a...
It's up to the commission, the mayor, if they would like to hear it.
It's a special presentation.
Okay. So, just for the sake of everyone in the audience, and this is being televised right now,
Yes.
I just want to explain why we're even having this discussion like this. In the last 3 meetings ago, I believe we started a conversation about how we can make these meetings more accessible, more transparent, and more efficient. And so the city clerk, with our approval and our input, put together an ordinance which requires that we give sufficient notice to put items on an agenda so that the public has enough time to access it, and that we on the dais have enough time to review it, and if there's any research that needs to be done by staff, there's enough time to do that as well. So what Commissioner Stuyvesant is asking is she would like to add those items now, which are not on the agenda. So this is up to the commission to vote if they would like to do that, which requires a motion.
So just a clarification,
Please.
Madam Mayor. This is a workshop, so no official action can be taken by the commission. So basically, it's just a consensus of the commission if you wish to move forward or not with hearing the presentation.
Okay, so I need someone to at least say that they...
Yeah, just you can go one by one and see if they're okay with it.
But what are the items?
Yeah, what are the items?
It's a Greenfields Outdoor Fitness presentation. It's about an idea about what we can do under the causeway.
Just so that one item?
Just one item, yes. It's just a presentation. He's here, he's ready, so he can present it to us.
Okay.
Who's here?
A representative from Greenfield Outdoor Fitness. As far as I know, he did register as a lobbyist, correct?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, exactly.
Commissioner Vizcarra?
I'm thinking,
Okay.
because I know that this is a new process and we're all like getting used to the new process. But I feel like if it were like something urgent, okay, but if not, I feel that we should be, like, try and stick to our process as we learn
Okay.
how to do it properly. But then I feel bad that there's a person here, so, I need a moment to think, so I'll pass for now.
Commissioner Lumley?
I feel the same way as Commissioner Vizcarra. However, since the person is already here, I will be okay with him making his presentation. However, I would like to be informed beforehand. If, you know, I know that we're still getting used to this new process, but I think it'll give us some time to perhaps think and go through the process and not be surprised. And, you know, because what about if we say no right now, then, you know, this person came here in vain. So, and given the traffic in South Florida, is not easy. So, but yeah, I'll be willing to hear this person out. But yeah, I would like to have more time announced, more time to think about it. So if this could be announced or communicated with perhaps more leeway, I would appreciate that.
As far as the causeway, whatever would go under there, we've paid $140,000 for a parks master plan. I don't see what this will add. I mean, we have, you know, we had a presentation. We're waiting for something to be implemented. And I don't see how this would fit in to what's already been proposed.
Okay.
Oh, did you see it?
So,
You don't know?
I'll just add, what I'd like to add is, while I do agree that it's, someone came here expecting to present, I want to make sure that we respect what we agreed to and that we have respect for our residents who may have wanted to be here to see this had it been on the agenda. So while, you know, I don't want, this isn't about feeling bad for me. This is, you know, we agreed on the process. We should stick to the process regardless of, you know, what the item is, unless, like we also agreed, if it was an emergency or something very urgent. So with that, what do we have, Mauricio?
If
We-
I may, I just had my moment.
Oh, good.
So thank you. Okay, so the add-on is part of the process, and we had talked about it, the urgency piece, but we're also at the beginning of learning how to use this process. And I really genuinely do, I feel bad. I feel bad that somebody came through traffic. So I would be okay with hearing it. However, I would not make this exception in the future, that because there's somebody here, my feelings are going to, my feeling bad for somebody is going to override that. Because I don't think that's a fair pressure to put on us. But we're new to the process. And this is part of it. It's not urgent. If we keep it short, this one time, I would make an exception.
Okay, so that means we have a
So
consensus.
the majority
Okay.
agree.
All right, so now that I see that our guests are here, we'll go back to the original order. Are you all ready?
I'd just like to
Please.
say that I have an add-on as well.
All right. What is your add-on?
My add-on is to break out the intercoastal area for tennis courts that we were working on, to break that out and continue the discussion to get shovels in the ground on that area prior to deciding on the rest of the Parks Master Plan. Since we already put money and time and design and architecture into that spot, that I believe we should break that out and work on that area.
Okay, thank you. Well, my comment remains the same for any add-on item. Commissioner Lama, Commissioner Viscara?
I mean, if we're gonna make one exception, I don't think it's appropriate to not make the second exception, but I don't wanna make this the rule. I'm lenient on this because we're new to the process. And both things have to do with parks, and whatever presentations or comments, I would appreciate that they remain brief.
I agree with what Commissioner Vizcarra said. And, yeah, again, please give us some notice. Again, we made one exception. I don't see how we can deny the other one. But yeah, I don't like surprises. I don't appreciate that pressure. And especially having someone here that perhaps, right now we're going to accept him to present, but then I don't think it's fair to that other person to bring him here and for us to say no. So I think we need to be cognizant of that. Exceptions can be made, obviously, but I don't want those to be the norm.
Okay, so since we have, Commissioner Simonson, did you want to add? Because we have a consensus now.
Yeah, perfect. No, I just want to
Okay.
clarify that I did send my memo on time to put these items
Okay.
in the agenda.
All right. Okay, so we will add those then to the end. Let's start with Sally. So I'm going to read a statement that's on behalf of all of us, and like I said earlier, we've been wanting to acknowledge you now for some time, and I hope that you know how much we love you, and that we tried to do this sooner, but you were traveling. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to introduce someone truly exceptional in our community, our dear friend and former Miami-Dade County Commissioner, Sally Hayman. Sally's list of achievements is nothing short of remarkable. In fact, we could spend this entire evening talking about all the wonderful things she's done for our community and beyond. However, there's one thing that truly sets her apart: her dedication to public service. Sally has devoted over 35 years of her life to making our community a better place, and we were fortunate to have her as our dedicated representative for more than 20 years. Sally is simply a powerhouse. Her impact extends far beyond Sunny Isles Beach and our neighboring communities. She's poured her heart and soul into serving not only our local area, but also dedicated her time improving the lives of countless residents throughout the county. She's championed important causes such as funding for social services, safeguarding personal freedoms, and advocating for animal welfare, just to name a few. Sally embodies the very essence of what it means to work for the people. It's with deep gratitude and immense respect that we stand here tonight to present a well-deserved proclamation in honor of Sally Hayman as she embarks on a new chapter in her life. At this time, I ask my fellow commissioners and former Commissioner Sally Hayman to join me on the podium. We'll take it at the podium with you, and then we'll take everyone else. Yes. So come. All right, let's get together and then let's get everyone. We're going to come down as well.
Okay.
We're going to come down, and I'm asking our guests that came for the proclamation to step up. I believe Commissioner Mickey Steinberg is here. I want to acknowledge her as well. And I don't know if, who else is back there? I can't really see, but come up. Alexis?
I'll start because Commissioner Steinberg's on a multi-task day of a lot of obligations. One, thank you, Sunny Isles Beach, very much. And two, to the people who kept electing me for decades, including when it was the people and the community activists of Sunny Isles. I have been a lifetime resident and a public servant my adult life, but it's been a pleasure and an honor to keep serving the community. What I love about politics is you take issues, and having a title sometimes, whether you're the owner of a company or the head of a household or elected office like many people here, public service gives you a greater opportunity to elevate the very issues of the people and get good things done and great things making the community better. It's been a real pleasure from the original with Dave Sampson and his group and a vision for a city to work on a whole bunch of things. But let me be clear, what I'm so pleased to have Mickey Steinberg and some of the staff that are here are carryover because she kept the staff that works so well taking care of this community. But you saw the pictures of me. One thing I want to clarify, a lot of them had other people in it because it was always we, us, and our. Things don't get done by one person. And the other thing is, if anybody's adventurous to get into politics, was true over the years. I started off as a blonde. It does age you a lot. I really am very humbled, and I thank you, and keep doing the people's work and put the people and policy first. God bless you all, and especially in trying times like today and this month and last week and everything, prayers to those in need. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, Commissioner Stern, are your people here? All right, let's go on to the introduction of the Intercoastal Police Athletic League.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commission, Mr. Manager. I'm proud to stand here before you today in front of our logo here of the Intercoastal Police Athletic League. Special thanks for Commissioner Vizcarra for advocating and challenging me to get this done for quite a while. And it wouldn't have been done without the people behind me. So I'd like to introduce Aventura Police Chief, also a great friend, Mike Ventolia, Commissioner Michael Stern, and Danny Bonini. If you can come up, they're going to do a presentation on what it's about, where we're at, and I'm excited to just to be a part of it. And we're going to make this the best program in the north end of Dade County.
That's exactly, hi everybody, very nice.
Hi.
to meet you. That's exactly what I was going to say. The excitement about this it's infectious. I'm so proud of this team that we have so far, and this is going to be such an incredible program. I cannot wait for it to get off the ground. We are very, very close. Danny will fill us in, but I'm just very excited to be working with Sunny Isles, and just can't wait to show you.
Hello, everyone. I didn't know I was speaking today. So we will actually be incorporated and ready to rock and roll after this meeting, after this week.
Great.
And we will keep you updated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mayor, Commissioner, City Manager, thank you for giving us this opportunity. It's funny, you know, Chief Santiago and I have known each other for many, many years, and now here we find ourselves in this position. And on our end, we were looking for something to do, and I'm always talking to him. I'm like, hey, look, you know, we're thinking about doing this. He's like, oh my God. He's like, we're thinking about the same thing. We're trying to figure out what path. I go, well, let's do this together. And it's a force multiplier with what we have to offer at Aventura, what you have to offer over here in Sunny Isles. Our community, your community are intertwined. Schools, religious facilities, shopping at our mall.
Yes.
But we're so intertwined that this just makes sense, you know. And we're very excited about this. It's not just going to be sports. It'll also be mentorship, working with kids to get their homework done, you know, giving them the leadership that they need. Parents, a little bit of a breather sometimes, maybe right after school. And, you know, if the kids aren't athletic, there are going to be other things that we're going to do. You know, there's plenty of other things, chess, ham radio, lots of other things that we're going to be coming up with. So we're very excited at all the possibilities, and we're even more excited to be able to do this with you, and especially with you, my friends. So I know this is going to be great, and I know all down the Intercoastal people will be knocking at our door to be part of this. They're going to have to knock pretty hard. So thank you.
Thank you.
If I could just add,
Absolutely.
we do have a board of 5, 2 representatives from City of Aventura, 2 representatives from the City of Sunny Isles Beach, and the 5th person for now will be myself. We also have, I believe, 4 non-voting members from Sunny Isles that we've picked, and Aventura we have not yet, correct? So we will give all that information to you once it's done, all the paperwork, and thank you so much for your support.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank
you. Okay.
Any questions?
Nope.
Okay.
All right.
Just thank you. Yeah.
Our next item is the Police Department accreditation presentation.
Oh, Chief needs to come back.
Wait, did you guys want to get a picture? Chief, since, yeah. Oh, well, that's great, then. We'll just, no, I think we stay here, kind of squeeze in, yeah, well, whatever, it's fine. It's about them. Thank you.
Good afternoon again. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, and City Manager. Today, we're not just here to talk about numbers and statistics. We're here to celebrate a journey, one that couldn't have made it to the end without what I call my dream team next to me. I'm going to introduce them. Sergeant Bill Howe, Lieutenant Luke Plisa, and our accreditation manager, Doug Robertson. Before I begin to tell you how my team and I even came to reach this podium, I need to take you back in time and give you a brief history of Sunny Isles Beach Police Department. In 1998, when our Sunny Isles Beach Police Department was established, it was just a small but mighty crew of 29 law enforcement officers. Fast forward to today, 25 years later, we now have a total of 62 sworn officers, which in my eyes are heroes, along with 12 civilian support staff. Among the 62, we have what I refer to them as the Fantastic Four Originals. Lieutenant Mike Movey is on vacation. Lieutenant Lee Athanasia is also out in training. Sergeant Bill Howe and myself. Of the original civilian staff, we still have two of them today, Communications Supervisor Francis Sands and Crime Prevention Supervisor Sandra Block. When I was first appointed your Chief of Police in April 5th, 2022, I had a vision. Some say it was a crazy notion of us getting accredited. And guess what? We did it. In just 14 short months, thanks to the efforts of our accreditation manager, Doug Robertson. You don't know how much I really do appreciate you and everything you've done and standing by our side. We revamped our policies, our procedures, and our police department, all while getting full support from the civilian support staff, officers, supervisors, and command staff. Today, I'm proud to say that every member of the Sunny Isles Beach Police Department gave it their all to earn this prestigious badge of honor. We did it. We became an accredited agency. A huge thank you to our mayor, vice mayor, commissioners, and city manager for standing by us and providing whatever assistance we needed while we tirelessly made our police department an accredited agency. I would be remiss not to mention all the other departments that assisted us in this monumental feat. I would like to thank the hard work of Public Works, IT, Finance, Media, and Human Resources. They also deserve a standing ovation, and I'd like to thank you for being a part of this wonderful journey, and thank you for your time. This is our plaque. We are official.
Can we see it on the camera or no? Can we zoom in there? No, I can't really zoom in. But.
I would like to invite all of you up here for a picture because this is something we did together. We're a team and very proud. I just want to also acknowledge one more person. I'm terrible at this sometimes. Retired Chief Paul O'Connell. Without him and his support, also, we would never found Doug. So thank you, Chief.
Thank you. For the students that came in after the meeting started, there's a sign-in sheet in the back. Hello, Ms. Alejandro. Thank you for bringing this, kids. Okay, so the next item is a discussion item, which is the electronic scooters. So this is we're co-sponsoring this. I'm going to read my statement because it's fairly long and I want to make sure I don't miss anything. And I want to remind everyone that's here, since this is a workshop, we don't have any public comment. You are here to listen. However, depending on how this conversation goes, this may be moved to our 6:30 meeting for us to vote on. And you will have an opportunity to give your feedback to us individually after this meeting, assuming it doesn't go until 6:30. So, okay. In response to promoting a healthier lifestyle, mitigating traffic, and supporting more environmentally friendly and cost-effective ways to get around, our city has become inundated with electric stand-up scooters. E-scooters became legal in Florida in 2019 pursuant to legislation that passed the Florida legislature. While there is currently no age restriction for someone to use an e-scooter, manufacturers' age recommendation vary from 8 to 16 years old. In fact, the American Academy of Pediatrics does not recommend motorized scooter usage for anyone under 16. Florida law treats e-scooter riders like bicycle riders. Therefore, they have all the rights and duties applicable to the rider of a bicycle, including on streets and in bike lanes. Only one rider per e-scooter is permitted, and no insurance is required to ride electric scooters. However, the June 2019 law making electric scooters legal in Florida also allowed cities to regulate their use in a wide variety of ways. Different cities throughout Florida have taken different approaches. While at first the county was supportive of contracts with e-scooter companies, now given a large number of violations by scooter riders, including riders on the sidewalk, multiple rides on a single scooter, they have canceled most of those contracts. We don't need extensive studies of e-scooters to know that they come with a number of serious safety concerns. For example, electric scooter riders are completely exposed. They are not required to wear helmets, so they can easily go flying off the scooter if involved in an accident. The scooters can also be more difficult to control in the rain, given that the water may affect a rider's ability to utilize the controls on the handlebars. Other safety concerns unique to e-scooters are rider experience levels and the lack of turn signals on these vehicles. Given that electric scooters are such a new form of transportation, both drivers and e-scooter riders often do not understand the proper way to interact with other traffic on the roads, and pedestrians don't know how to interact with them on sidewalks. There are no turn signals on scooters, and in many places, riders have the freedom to choose where to ride, whether on the sidewalk or on the road. For all these reasons and many more, it is time we have a thorough and inclusive conversation about regulating scooters. It is time that all stakeholders come together to decide what laws need to be proposed and enforced so that our residents are safe. I just want to add some additional information. The city manager and the city attorney have been researching this issue since February 2023 at the request of the vice mayor, who provided several examples of legislation from various states across the U.S., which took time to review as it related to our Florida laws. Commissioner Verskar similarly requested a discussion regarding e-scooter regulation, including but not limited to registration requirements. After several revisions, they have drafted the attached ordinance to facilitate this discussion among City Commission. So what I'd like to do, I think, so that we know what we're talking about, Mauricio, if you can read the proposed ordinance so that we can discuss the contents, please.
Mayor, when you say read, do you mean just the title of it, or do you?
Where there's well, I guess it's pretty long. I would say, hold on, I would go with perhaps just the titles where the registration is required, those items, so that the.
Mayor, if you'd like, I can walk you through.
That would be even better. Thank you. Thank you.
So as you correctly stated, Mayor, motorized scooters are regulated under Florida law, but they are treated as bicycles. There are a variety of jurisdictions that have created local regulations, which Florida state statute allows you to do within the sidewalks and streets that are under your jurisdiction. Not within your jurisdiction, but under your jurisdiction. So you had an existing ordinance, 256, starting at 256-40, which only had one prohibition, which essentially prohibited skateboards, rollerblades, inline skates, coasters and scooters, and segways on the eastern and western sidewalk areas of Collins Avenue and also Sunny Isles Boulevard, State Road 826, and that was it. So we devised a more comprehensive ordinance based upon the feedback we received from you in our independent discussions with you regarding your concerns and safety issues that have been arising in the last few years. I'll skip through the definitions, but one of the major changes is the creation of a registration program where the scooters are required to be registered with the city, where you actually get a decal. You have an application that you'll fill out with information.
We're faced with challenges,
the owner.
more so than ever before.
It's a minor child, the owner
Physical
is
health.
naturally the parent, even if the child paid for it on its own and has a scooter and the parent wasn't involved in the transaction, for a minor, the parent is still going to be deemed to be an owner. So that way we have an accurate record of the scooters that are out there for safety purposes if someone gets a scooter stolen, as well as for enforcement purposes if someone is not following the regulations. 256-41 creates that registration requirement. Currently, we just threw in there an application fee of $5, but that's obviously up to you all whether you want to charge just to defray the cost the city will have in processing the applications and issuing the decals that'll have to be placed on the scooters. That's the next section's 256.-3, where you are going to be required to actually have a decal on your scooter where it is visible. There's certain provisions regarding transfer. You can't change one decal from one scooter to another. Of course, if you sell it or transfer it over to someone else, another owner, then there's a provision for you to be able to do that. As with any decals, same thing as with license plates on your car. If they become defaced or they get lost or they're not readable, you can come back for another one. It'll get re-registered. Then we get to 256-47, which are the requirements and restrictions. And these are, just to preface it, again, Mayor, as you correctly stated, under 316-2128, motorized scooters are regulated, but there is a provision in there that that statute doesn't prevent the city from regulating them as well. There's probably two things we can't do from a preemption standpoint. Florida statute is clear that in order to operate a motor scooter, you don't have to have a driver's license, and it does not need to be registered as your vehicle or moped or motorcycle need to be. So those we wouldn't be able to deviate from. But beyond that, you have pretty much pretty good leeway, particularly as it comes to sidewalks, because sidewalks, scooters are only permitted on the sidewalks if the city allows them to be. So these are all subject, obviously, to your input and, deletions or additions. But for example, we state that every person operating a motorized scooter has all the rights and duties applicable to a rider of a bicycle on the Florida statutes. We've created a concept of there are certain areas of the city that have very wide sidewalks, sufficient to accommodate ADA clearances, to have them divided. So to the extent that they can be divided, they'll be demarcated with a line and adequately signed. And there will be a side of the sidewalk that will be dedicated for pedestrians, pedestrians only. And if you do have a motorized scooter, skateboard, Segway, if anybody still uses those, or rollerblades, they'll have to stay on the other side. There's a few sidewalks that are wide enough for us to do that, and to the extent that we have the width, the city is endeavoring to do that. As is required under Florida law and in our proposed ordinance, you have to yield to the pedestrians if you are on a sidewalk. So that has to be very clear, that if you are a motorized scooter, skateboard, or any other wheeled device on a sidewalk, you have to yield to pedestrians, and you have to make some sort of audible signal, whether verbal or if the device has a little horn or anything else, to alert the passing pedestrian that you're going to be passing. Again, consistent with Florida law, if you're under 16 years of age, you have to wear a helmet. I think that's one of the biggest safety features that we've heard from you in our discussions with you, that there's a large concern about the lack of helmets, especially for the smaller kids. You are required under Florida law and under our ordinance to wear a helmet if you're younger than 16 years of age. Another problem we seem to see is that motorized scooters are used by more than one person, where there's a couple people on the scooter that can be dangerous. The manufacturers also recommend you don't do that. The law does as well, Florida as well as our law. You cannot have more than one person on a scooter. You also cannot ride more than have two abreast. You need to be in single file. We don't have, whether it be on a bicycle lane, whether it be in a sidewalk, the way we have it right now is you have to be single file. You can't ride side by side. With regards to the speed of motor scooters, understanding the challenges of monitoring speed, the definition of motorized scooter in the Florida law has basically something that cannot go more than 20 miles per hour. But as we know and as we've seen, some of them go a lot faster than 20 miles an hour. Nevertheless, if on sidewalks, they have to be no more than 15 miles an hour. So we have the maximum speed that not exceeding 15 miles an hour anywhere for safety reasons, obviously. Persons operating motorized scooter have to obey official traffic control signals. You come to a stop sign, you stop. If it's a red light, you stop. I mean, that's sort of common sense, obviously for safety, but that is articulated here as well as in Florida statutes. As it is with skateboards, bicycles, anything else, you can't attach yourself to another vehicle. I don't know that that's really prevalent, but you can't grab a bumper or grab part of a car where you can go along for the ride. There's also provisions with regards to when you are on a motorized scooter or on a skateboard or on another wheel device that you don't have headphones on, you're not listening to anything, that you actually can hear, that you are dedicating your attention to the act and the action at hand, not anything else that may be distracting. And we can add to that list, but certainly we have headset, headphones, listening devices, but we can certainly, I believe Commissioner Vizcarra had suggested cell phones. Whether you're on your cell phone or looking at your cell phone while you're riding a scooter is dangerous. There's some provisions also with regards to lighting standards. Technically under Florida law, for you to be able to operate a motor scooter, there are lighting standards with regards to front light and rear lights, so you are visible at night. And these aren't just deflectors, these are actual lights. And with regards to, this is again stated very clearly in Florida statute, and it is clearly stated in the proposed ordinance you have before you, and I'll quote, that in accordance with section 316.2065, subsection 8 Florida statutes, no parent of any minor child and no guardian of any minor ward may authorize or knowingly permit any such minor child or ward to violate any of the provisions of this section. So, to the extent that you have an adult allowing a child to do this and saying, don't worry about it, just do it, the adult could be subject to penalties as well. And then when it comes to penalties, we have it, since these are, for the most part, mirrored under Florida law as well, we have the option of citing them under Chapter 14, which is through sort of a notice of violation, which makes it a little bit more practical from the staff standpoint because you'll go before a special magistrate. If you don't pay the fine, you can request a hearing to go before the special magistrate. Or if you don't pay the fine and you don't request, then the special magistrate will impose that fine. And again, this is the benefit of the registration system because you'll know who you're doing it for. You can contact them and they actually will receive notices of hearings where they have to appear. If they don't appear, then there's consequences to that with regards to enhanced penalties. They can also, for more egregious violations of the traffic laws, including the helmet law, we have the option as well to cite them under Florida law, which is a non-criminal traffic citation. Just like getting a speeding ticket or pedestrian violation. So we have those options within the enforcement provision of the ordinance. And then the effective date, we kept, for the most part, an existing provision from your original ordinance that provided a 90-day process for this to be implemented, which includes an educational campaign and giving folks obviously the opportunity, the 90 days to be able to register their scooters for our outreach. I believe law enforcement wants to outreach with the schools, as well as anything else the city can do to educate folks on what is required under the Florida law, what is required under our ordinance, and that will allow folks to, do some trial and error and get their act together to the extent that they need to comply with our ordinance. And thereafter, any enforcement is predicated by a warning. So your first offense is a warning, and thereafter, then we'll get into some of the fines that are set forth in here as well as in Chapter 14.
Okay, thank you. Who would like to start? Commissioner Stuyvesant?
I have a question about the form. To pass the ordinance, we need a simple majority or a supermajority?
No, simple majority.
So my question will be, if we had 3 sponsors, don't we know that it's going to pass by default?
Well, we still have to discuss the details of it, I think.
No, I know, exactly, but that'll be my point. Like, we had 3 sponsors of the ordinance.
I think it was sponsors of the discussion. It was very possible that you all may completely dislike what I wrote. So it's not necessarily acquiescing to the ordinance. I've already heard some suggestions of changing it here and there. So it's not necessarily the ordinance to the extent I think it was a discussion item, and obviously bringing an ordinance forward. But you all have the ability to completely dislike what I wrote and start from scratch.
Okay. So I have a few comments and questions about the requirements and restrictions. The Part B says, at no time may a person operating a motorized scooter or coaster in like a skate, rollerblades, skateboard, or any such a wheel device ride upon a portion of a divided sidewalk. So I have 2 questions. Number 1, what about strollers?
I'm sorry?
Strollers, baby carriage.
That would fall under any other wheel device.
Exactly. So we are limiting strollers from being in the sidewalks. I don't think moms want to be with the babies in the street. So,
But I think we can probably make an exception
please.
for that. And there may be under Florida law, I didn't notice anything with regards to strollers, but they're not defined as a motor scooter, obviously, or any of the other devices.
yeah,
So
but when we open and so broad and we say wheeled device, it means anything with wheels.
I would disagree with that, because it says such other wheeled device. So it would be devices that are being used for transportation this way. I mean, it's, by individuals, like a bicycle, you know what I mean? But I think the clarification is worth it, but I
can put in
when I read it,
except
I
strollers.
didn't, I'm looking at it now, I don't think it would
Okay.
include strollers, but it doesn't hurt to put it.
But maybe in the future we're going to have motorized strollers too. So
Oh, yeah, where the babies are
yeah.
doing, yeah, okay.
So just, considering that.
No, it's not a bad clarification,
okay,
but
so-
although I think we could argue around that.
The 50 miles per hour limit, I think it makes sense. It's just, and everything makes sense. My question will be at the end of the day really about enforcement. So.
Enforcement is a challenge. That's why the registration program helps in that regard, because we know who the scooter belongs to, particularly if it's being operated by a minor that wouldn't have identification. But that is a challenge. It's a challenge for a lot of what the regulations are, even for bicycles. How do you gauge 15 miles an hour? We don't necessarily have radar guns that are going to be trained on these. Law enforcement officers are trained, obviously, if there's a scooter going 40 miles an hour, a law enforcement officer will be able to determine that that's not going 50 miles an hour. So the big, obvious things are fine. But if they're going 16 and 17, probably not going to be able to catch that.
Another thing about the 15 mile per hour, many of those scooters, they don't set what is the speed that you're going.
Correct.
So they don't have it, So maybe I'm going 20 miles per hour. I don't have an electric scooter, by the way, but maybe I'm going 20 miles per hour. When they stop me, I will say, wait, I don't know, I don't have it. So how we are going to enforce something that even the person that is riding it doesn't know what is the speed they're going to?
Again, it's a very good point. It's a challenge in enforcement. It mirrors Florida law. Florida law has it as 50 miles an hour on sidewalks. It's self-regulating to that extent, but you're absolutely correct. When it comes to enforcement, whether it's a police officer or a code enforcement officer, it becomes very difficult to determine, again, to the example, you're going 17 miles an hour, assuming you can know, to your point.
And another question I have, because I really don't know, do we have any sidewalk that is designated only for pedestrians in the city?
All sidewalks are technically designated for pedestrians, but there are circumstances under Florida law where bicycles, less so for bicycles than motorized scooters, but motorized scooters are up to you entirely on the sidewalks that you control. Bicycles can very rarely be on sidewalks under Florida law, but generally sidewalks are regulated for pedestrian use.
Only?
That's what they're designed for, yeah.
Okay, I have no more comments.
Yes, and so Collins Avenue, we have no opportunity to regulate?
You have an opportunity to enforce, not necessarily regulate. So, for example, the helmet law is applicable to Collins, and we can enforce that because it's under state law. To the extent that we have particular regulations here that are not included in state law, we couldn't necessarily enforce on Collins. But anything that's covered under state law, we can enforce.
Okay, so is that going to be better? I think so. Okay, so I have one issue with 256-41, letter C, where we're stating that out-of-city residents would not be included under this ordinance, which I don't believe that that's something that is enforceable, and we should not exclude out-of-city residents. Everyone needs to be treated the same as if we have a visitor to the city who comes here on a vacation. If they bring scooters with them for their kids, they should not be allowed to be used, or they have to be registered.
It gets a little tricky. I mean, we could try to do that, except we don't necessarily have jurisdiction over folks that live in other cities. To the extent they use them in the city, we'd have to have a process set up. Now, to your example, if somebody brings a scooter on vacation, they're going to be here, let's say, 6 months. A little easier for them to get it registered. If someone's traveling from Aventura and happens to be in Sunny Isles and then goes back to Aventura, it's going to be hard to capture that from a registration standpoint. We can have it in there. I just don't know how enforceable it's going to be from the police or code enforcement standpoint.
Well, if we don't have a broad statement that any scooters within our city limits that we, are under regulation, and we have to get the word out there. Otherwise, it's going to be totally unenforceable.
Well, they are, I mean, we can certainly remove it or change it. They are, if they don't have proof of residency, they're going to be treated as they are residents. But that's up to you all if you want that in there or not.
Well,
if you want to
the
require.
rest of it is enforceable. They still would have to wear a helmet, and everything else we would
Right.
enforce, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
They wouldn't have to be registered, but they'd still have to operate them within our rules once they're in our jurisdiction. The only thing they'd be exempted from is registration. But again, that's all up to you and how you want that to go.
Also, the registration fee, I believe that $5 should be changed to $15. Also, I would like to know what the city, I don't know if you've had a chance to think of it yet, how much the administrative costs would be, that the registration fee should at least cover a part of that.
I think that question, he was looking at you. I don't know numbers.
Gone that far
I
yet?
think if we have not gotten to that point yet, but I think if we have some sort of provision that allows me to change the registration fee to meet our administrative costs going forward.
Right, because also we would need to have more administrative judges. So,
Yes, there could be an impact to our special magistrate
Right,
process,
magistrate.
yes,
so there also is a cost there that needs to be covered.
yes.
We should at least get the break even.
So if we have some sort of provision that would allow me to adjust the administrative cost by resolution without having to have an ordinance change?
We can publish the rates, the fee rates by resolution. We could do that where it would be changed by resolution. We just have to have it in something official so people know.
Yes. So we have an initial cost, and then we provide a provision where by resolution, I would be able to adjust the administrative costs going forward, dependent upon approval of the ordinance.
Okay. Another issue I have is, and I've heard this, and one of the reasons that it's gotten to this point is I've had a lot of residents calling me on a weekly basis that, I just had a scooter go by me and the rider slapped me on the head as he went by, or I almost got knocked over, an older person. And for an elderly person, it only takes one fall to, with brittle bones, to break a hip and ruin your life. Now, how are we dealing with the insurance issue, the liability issue?
Well, first of all, if somebody does that, that's a battery, that's a crime.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be dealt with from the criminal side with police.
Right.
What do you mean with regards to insurance?
Well, so parents who are allowing their children to ride the scooters without any conversation as to, to be careful regarding someone on the street, and I believe there are a lot of, and I've seen myself, just young children just blowing past stop signs and red lights, and that they haven't had any training whatsoever, or maybe even that conversation at home, that someone could be injured by you going past them too closely, or if you have someone that loses their balance as you go past, or they're surprised and they fall over. All of those issues can occur.
I don't understand the question.
So,
Vice Mayor, are you asking if we can require insurance? Is that what you're saying?
no, not insurance, but parents themselves have to realize there's a liability.
Well, that's a
They're-
civil.
That's a civil
Right.
liability.
That would be
I
a civil
understand.
liability.
Yeah, but I don't think that we have so many scooters on our street. I don't think that thought has come to a lot of people's minds.
Well, that would be probably part of the education,
Right.
I would assume.
Okay.
Because that's part of the ordinance, okay? But that's a good point. Anything else?
No, that would be it.
Okay, go ahead.
So, Alan, can you clarify 256-47B, where the operators of these e-scooters are allowed to transit? I want to have a clear understanding. It says, any person operating a motorized scooter upon a divided sidewalk must ride on the portion of the sidewalk, et cetera. So,
Right.
if you could explain that to me a little bit better, because I know we have some rules about that, but it's not clear. Sometimes it's not clear. I know we have wider sidewalks. If you're on North Bay Road, I think they're supposed to ride on the wider portion of North Bay Road, et cetera. So if you could just go over that a little bit. And then I want to understand, because I see them on the street as well, I understand we cannot regulate their transit through Collins Avenue, but through the inner streets, yes. So if you could just...
Sure. So divided sidewalk was an idea that management provided to me with regards to the larger sidewalks we have.
Mm-hmm.
And we defined it in the first section under definitions. And it basically say it's a sidewalk divided by visible markings. So there's literally going to have a painted, bright painted line in the middle of the sidewalk.
The middle.
And with appropriate signs and designations on either side. And it'll be very visible to whoever's using it as to what side is for pedestrian and which side is for a motorized scooter. Again, this is sort of a test, never done that before, so we'll see how well it works. But since we had the room on the wider sidewalks, the thought was that if we can separate the two, the scooters from the pedestrians and avoid those contacts, then, we could. So that's why that was demarcated. So it'll be very visible to whoever's using the sidewalk where they need to be if they're walking or if they're riding a scooter. With regards to Collins, obviously we can't do that on Collins because they're not our sidewalks, and they're also narrower. So we can't divide them to the extent where either side has less of an ADA clearance that's required. So we can only do it on the sidewalks that are larger. But again, on Collins, whatever state law provides with regards to use, and Florida law does say that you have to yield to pedestrians. So if you do have a motorized scooter and it's visible to the police officer that they just blow by somebody, hit them, or, cause them to fall or anything like that, that would be, a violation. So they could enforce that on Collins. Did that answer your question, or did you?
Yes, and what about the transit on the actual street, where cars transit?
So technically, under Florida statutes, the scooters are supposed to be riding in the bicycle lane. If there's no bicycle lane, then they need to stay to the furthest right they can to safely ride on the lane of traffic. To the extent they're permitted on sidewalks, that's up to us to decide whether they can or they cannot be on the sidewalks. But under Florida law, they actually belong in the street.
They actually belong in the street, okay. Yeah, it's a conundrum. I mean, because sometimes they're on the sidewalks that are narrow.
Right.
And obviously there's the issue of the people riding these, driving these e-scooters, knocking, elderly people down. And then also there's the danger of cars hitting these e-scooter drivers, right?
Yeah.
If they're on the street. So there's nothing we could do regarding e-scooter drivers being on the streets, right?
Not on the streets, no, because Florida law allows them as
Florida law
bicycles.
will preempt us.
Right. You could ban them from your sidewalks,
Mm-hmm.
but then you're relegating them to.
Yeah,
the
I know,
street.
it's
Yeah, it's
a
tough.
balancing act, really. And what about, I mean, is this ordinance, would it be valid, let's say, or could it work without requiring registration of scooters? I understand that we would like to know, who has this e-scooter, have those with a decal so we can identify them. But my question is, would it work without the registration of the scooters?
You can do it, but then enforcement gets difficult because a lot of your users are minors. So
And
they
they
don't
don't
have
have
identification,
Yeah.
or they choose not to give you identification.
Correct.
Or they just, hey,
Mhm.
go away, I'm not going to stop for you. This gives the ability to say, okay, little Johnny, get the number off the scooter, and then you know who mom and dad is, and you can go the next step and deal with the owner of the scooter versus just the operator.
Okay.
So it's really, and again, it does help. Many cities in the past, before motorized scooters, had registration of bicycles, and that often was for, reclaiming stolen bicycles because they'd get stolen a lot. So you'd
Yeah.
find a bicycle on the side of the street, or you catch somebody with a bicycle that wasn't registered to them, you could return it to their rightful owner. This could also be used for that same purpose. I don't know that we have a huge prevalence of theft of motor scooters, but to the extent that occurs and we find one that's registered, it can go back to its rightful owner.
Mm-hmm. Have we done anything to this point, and perhaps somebody in the police department can tell us? I know obviously some of these scooter drivers have violated perhaps Florida law, whatever laws we have in place. What's been the process up to this point? Do we know? Because I've seen some of our police officers stop kids on scooters. So I don't know for what reason, and I was just curious to know what's been done.
All I know is we've issued a lot of warnings, for sure,
Yeah.
to the extent that they've been stopped and advised. I don't know that we've issued citations, but I would have to defer to the city manager or the chief on that.
Would you like to have the chief come up and answer some
Yeah, I
questions?
think I know the answer, but
Chief?
Bring my most aggressive traffic guy here.
Just about a week and a half ago, Sergeant Hernandez actually stopped a parent that was riding with a child on the scooter on Atlantic Boulevard by the school. He had first warned her that the child had to have a helmet on. The child was definitely under 16. And as soon as she stopped and heard him, she got back on with the child, still no helmet, and continued on. Sergeant Hernandez did conduct a traffic stop on her, and he did cite her for that. So it was enforced, and that was not just a warning. So
Again, this really starts with the parents. That's where it needs to begin. Sergeant Hernandez and the traffic unit does stop a lot of parents and kids in the morning, mainly parents. Parents get angry, you're targeting me. We're fielding complaints and phone calls from parents because he's harassing me, and this is what we're going through. And it's taking up time of supervisors calling them back, doing a follow-up, handling a complaint. That's really nothing. It starts with the parents. They do it during the school. It's just it's time-consuming. They're directing traffic also. So I mean, I don't know if you have anything else to add.
no, I know I've warned several people for the scooter violations as well. So it does get done. A lot of times it's difficult to catch them because either we're in a car and they can get through traffic and we can't really catch up to them, and by the time we do, they're gone. It is very hard to catch them, to be honest with you, unless they're coming right at you and you're able to make contact with them immediately. It is very difficult. If you ever try to chase after somebody on a bicycle or a scooter or even a motorcycle, it's very, very difficult. So.
But if I could just say, for all of our efforts, it only takes one accident for us to all be crying, and so hopefully the parents understand that we're doing this to not have a future incident.
you do, Commissioner Viscara?
I'm done, thank you.
Well, this is a challenging issue, and I think the ordinance is going to have its challenges as well, but I think that's appropriate. And, following the chief's comments, maybe we can use some forfeiture funds for some police scooters, and you can also go get them. I had the, okay, so the 25641 is a challenge. This is the one about the people who don't live here. If there's some way to tighten that, this is what the Vice Mayor brought up. I agree with that. I think that without the registration component, there is no enforcement. So, and I think that we should have like registration incentives, like maybe, and here's the other thing also. So you register it. It doesn't mean the kids now know the laws of the road. So I think that part of the educational component should be something hands-on where we're teaching the kids what the rules of the road are and what's expected of them and why, et cetera. And maybe have like a little certificate program where if you come and you get your certificate and you sit through a rules of the road scenario, then we'll waive your registration fee or something like that. Like things that to encourage people, because you don't want to be punitive without explaining to people how to do it right, especially when you're dealing with kids. And obviously that the provision of helmets and things like that, make it as easy as possible for the community, because ultimately this is a safety concern not just for the users, but also for the pedestrians sharing the road. And for the drivers, even though it's not a safety concern for the driver per se, because the car is probably going to do better than the person on the scooter, but you know, that is the that potential a collision is something that we need to be cognizant of, not just for, you know, it's for all drivers, but the senior citizens in particular. They've told me, it's like, we're afraid to go out and drive during the time that kids are going to or from school, because they don't have the same mobility, they don't hear them, they may not see them, and the children, some of them are not being careful. And so I'm genuinely surprised that we haven't had more bad news. This is, I think it's a problem waiting to happen, and we have to try to do something. So this is, I think, a good effort, but without the registration component, I think everything else falls apart. Let me see. So it's good for the theft piece. I've spoken also. You guys know that I practice family law, and so I reached out to a retired judge, and just to ask them, I gave the scenario. It's like, if you're in a family situation where one parent said, oh yeah, the other parent just lets the child, the 10-year-old go to school on a scooter by themselves, no helmet, or lets both kids go off. So how would you feel about that? And the judge was very clear with me. It absolutely would be held against that parent. So it may have a legal implication as well in those scenarios. That judge is retired, so it's not going to affect anybody in court right now. But I don't think people understand the gravity of the situation, and I think it's long overdue that we create an ordinance that has a chance of being enforced. The other one just really didn't, and it's also on roads over which we have jurisdiction. So let me see what else. I agree, this is largely a parenting issue. This is sometimes a matter of ignorance, that you don't know that that's not allowed. And it's a matter of convenience, because it's easier to use the scooter than to maybe wait for the bus, right? Or to use other options. So yeah, some people might be inconvenienced, but I think that's okay if it saves us a funeral or an accident. Let's see. I'm just going through my notes, and I think, yeah, we just have to look at incentives, at ways to help people register. I definitely, obviously, support this effort, and it may need to get tweaked along the way, and that's okay. If we change the sidewalks, if we add lanes to a road or whatever, then we come back to it, and this is going to be a process. So I fully support it, and I would add the cell phone language to the things that we don't want to see, because we do see it. So, and that doesn't help. You can wear all the helmets in the world. If you drive in the middle of traffic, you don't see it coming, then you have a problem. So that's it for me.
Okay. So what I wanted to add was, this is definitely an example of how we were trying to get people out of cars and to help with traffic, and now we have the scooters. For a while we had the Segways, and I was really hoping that the scooters would become sort of out of style, so this would no longer be an issue, but it seems that there's more and more of them. I had spoken to a few parents about this, and one parent was very upset when she learned that you're not supposed to have two people on a scooter, and the other parent that usually has ridden with her child on a scooter recently fell. And she said, you know what, it was horrible, and now I understand why. So you don't want to get to a point where it actually happens to someone, and that's when they decide they're going to do something differently. So I feel very strongly that we do need to have more enforcement, and I know that it's very challenging, and I know that nobody wants to pull over a little kid and give them a citation. But I think that if we make it something that they have some more buy-in, it helps. So the educational component is really important. And the registration, I agree with you, Commissioner Vergara. I think that if we make it more interactive, I for one think that the registration, at least for the first 90 days, should be free. Because if you want to incentivize people to register, you got to make it as easy as possible. And I'm just wondering, Mr. Attorney, can we put a provision in there that allows the city manager, like what the city manager was saying, to change it as needed, so that if the city manager and the PD decide, hey, we need to make it free, or, without us coming back every single time?
Yes, we can make it basically language that says may be subject to a fee, and that fee would be published through a resolution. So your schedule of fees would be essentially in a resolution, and you could just refer to the resolution rather than it being in the ordinance. So that way you'd have the ability to just do it by resolution. Or if you want to give the city manager the authority, could just be published on the website or something or other. But by resolution is probably a good way.
Well, I would be supportive of giving the city manager the authority, so that way we're not coming back and discussing it every time, but I'd like to hear what everyone else says. The other thing about the registration, I'm very supportive of the registration. It's sort of reminiscent of what happens with the wave runners. You have the decal there so that even if they're going by you, you can still see it. So I think like the size of the decal, I would like to, if it's possible, to make it as big as possible. With the out-of-city residents, that I know is challenging. So my question is, what is the provision if you're not registered? So is there a fine if you're not registered?
Yes, if you're not registered, it would be in violation. Well, if you're a resident and you're not registered, it's a violation. If you're stopped and you're a resident from another city, it would not be. But if you're not able to establish that you are just on the registration. But if you can establish that you are a resident someplace else, there's no violation for failure to register. However, if you have no proof, if the person says, I forgot my ID at home, but I live in Aventura, but you can't prove it to the officer, then we're going to treat you as a resident and give you the citation.
Well, it seems that it's just an additional step that makes it challenging for the officers to enforce. So I would go with whatever the manager thinks is the best practice for that, and with the chief, for me, because I think that's a tough one. How does this affect bicycles?
It doesn't.
So we will not require bicycles then to be registered? Unless
you want to. You have a separate code dealing with bicycles.
Okay, and I'm not bringing that into here. Okay. Right now, we do not require a horn, but do bicycles require some sort of horn? Or as long as you are able to say beep, beep, you're okay?
Right, if I remember the language of the statute, it's got to be audible, so you could scream at the person if you want to. From my understanding, you don't necessarily have to have a horn.
Okay, all right. And again, I think the education component is really key, and getting that's why I was really hoping we'd have more kids from the community here, but I think that it's going to be incumbent on us to really get this information out. The school is being very supportive. They're supportive of this, and they want this because it will help them with some level of enforcement, meaning that if they see the decals, and then they can have perhaps a record of all the scooters, because they do actually have some instances where there's theft. It's not a lot, but there is some. Yeah, I think that's it for me. We've talked about this for a while, so yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so just to this point, if we have out-of-towners who are bringing their scooters, they don't have to wear helmets either?
No,
They do.
If they're out-of-towners, the only difference is for registration. They still have to follow all the rules. As long as they're within the city, they're going to have to follow the rules of the ordinance. The only thing that would be accepted, the way it's written now, would be the exception would be registration. But from what I'm hearing, we want them to register. If you're you're going to be using your scooter in the city of Sunny Isles, you'll need to have it registered.
Yes, I believe that.
I think the registration needs to be as easy as possible.
Yeah, easy.
If it's possible to make it electronic, so you're not, coming in to make an appointment.
So in that regard, how are you going to?
Well, I would defer to the city manager, whatever the city manager thought makes sense. But if you're here for the weekend,
right,
and you're here on Saturday and Sunday,
bringing scooters with you,
then how do you register?
For the enjoyment of the kids, I think they're just illegal, or they have to be registered. You can't, because you would have people who are city residents who are under an ordinance, and then you have visitors who are not under an ordinance. It just makes no sense.
I would defer to the chief and the city manager, because for me, if you're unable to register because you're only here for on Saturday and Sunday, then you've made it impossible for me to follow the ordinance. Otherwise, I just can't use my scooter. I don't know if I agree with that. Is it something like, what do we have right now online that is, like, for instance, if they were to do this through the program that we use for activities or events, is that something that's possible?
Yes, that's possible. But they would still have to actually either physically come in and pick it up, or we mail it to their home. So like right now, you can renew your resident ID card and we can mail it to you.
So you'd have
But
to be able
there's
to
a
do this, for
process
instance, at
that
Pelican,
takes-
which is open on the weekends.
Correct, yes.
Right, okay. Okay. Then I'm okay with that, yeah.
Yeah.
Could do it if it doesn't have to be in the government center. Okay. All right.
So
Any-
then everyone, no matter visitor or not,
Yeah.
if they're using a scooter, it would need to be registered.
All right, anyone else have anything to add? No? All right, so procedurally for the evening meeting,
That's up to you all. I mean, you can certainly have it as an add-on with changes being made between first and second reading, which I think, based on your comments today, and then on second reading, we can go through the changes, for example, clarifying the issue with the strollers and with the cell phones and things of that sort. And if you're satisfied with that, then on second reading, I defer to the city clerk if he has any issues, but.
Yeah, I would just add on that the ordinance will be put on the agenda for tonight, as was
As is,
presented tonight.
right,
And then at the time, if the commission still agrees with the way that it was written, it would just be the motion to approve it as amended based on the discussion that happened at the 3 o'clock workshop.
so we can combine those two, this discussion can be as amended based on the workshop, or do we have to repeat
You
it?
could, and I can run through quickly what those are.
At the
on
meeting,
record
okay.
If you'd like. And then
Perfect.
the only other thing to consider is that, since it's not on the agenda, it won't be necessarily notice to, your first reading isn't necessarily going to be known to your residents that you're actually, it was a discussion for today, but the actual first reading isn't on your agenda. So that's just something for you to consider. Legally, it's not an issue, but you just need to consider that.
Well, given how many people this impacts, if we can, and if I have consensus, have a really strong push for the second reading to let the public, especially the kids, know that we're going to have a second reading so they have another opportunity.
And if I can add, I believe it was broadcast by the principal at the school today.
Yes, to every single parent of the school.
So I was gonna say, because there is a second reading, I'm not as concerned
Right.
about the fact that we're not giving a whole lot of notice. And also, as I said in my email to you guys, we don't have a December meeting. So if we have the first reading now, second reading November, we can then get it
Start
going.
moving forward.
So I think it's appropriate.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree.
Okay. All right, you have everything
May-
you need?
I'm sorry, may I ask a quick question? City Attorney, if people come to the second reading, there's no changing it at the second reading? Is that final?
No, well, if you pass it on second reading, it's final. But there could be additional changes. You would just have to, if it's a small change, you could just incorporate it as amended and approve it as such. But if it's a large substantive change, you may have to re-advertise it. For example, if you didn't have a registration, just an example, if you didn't have a registration component and on second reading you decide to add a registration component, then I would say you'd need to really re-advertise it and do it over. But if you're just adding cell phone, that could be as amended, that would be fine.
Okay.
So could our big push for second reading include the revised ordinance based on what you're going to do after tonight's meeting so that people can see the revised one before and then reach out to their commissioners, right?
Right, that'll be,
If they
that'll be
wanted
the
changes for the
available,
second one.
that'll be the available ordinance is the one that's revised.
Right,
'cause
that's the only
what
one they're
the-
going to see.
Right,
so.
okay, but you could not make changes between 1 and 2 other than what's discussed at the meeting tonight.
Correct. I mean, you could, the manager could always decide that I want to add something else and then present it to the commission on second reading, but typically you want those changes to come from the body, and we could always have that discussion beforehand, but typically the changes are going to come from the city commission.
Okay, so if residents, children even reach out to you and propose changes?
We could still make changes
you
for
could
the
still do
second
that.
reading.
Okay.
Right, exactly, okay.
We had just like 10 minutes from the add-on, so can we
Okay,
continue?
so I think we're good with this?
Yes.
All right, so, yes, that's a very good point. So we have 5 minutes until the end of the meeting, so do you think he'll be done in 5 minutes?
Yes.
Okay, please.
I also had an
Well, we're going to have to then do a vote to extend time.
Okay.
All right, so who are we calling up? All right, so can you come closer?
Mr. Mendelson? if
Yes,
you Take the clicker.
my name is Mendelson. I'm from Greenfields Auto Fitness. I'm actually from California, so traffic was not an issue for me here. And I was asked during the Florida League of Cities to come up with an idea for the Lehman Causeway. We met at the site, and this is a result of what we thought you might be interested in. So before we continue, just a couple things real quick. Point to here. What am I pointing to?
Yeah, you can just click next.
We're faced with challenges, more so than ever before. Physical health and mental health are at greater risk. We want to help, but how? What if we designed our open spaces to truly serve everyone in our communities? What if we leverage all they can do for families, friends, and neighbors? What if we made fitness everything it should be? A way to not just make our bodies healthier, but also a way to connect with nature and connect with each other. It's time fitness had no barriers to entry. Time for it to be enjoyed together by everyone. Designed to serve people for whom it's already a lifestyle and people who are just beginning their fitness journeys. Let's make the places we strengthen our physical.
I'm going to skip it because this sound is absolutely terrible. But because we are pressed in time, I'm going to skip real quick to, instead of telling you who we are, jump right into what we do. And a few highlights from Florida projects right around here that you can actually reference before we jump into the design proposal we submitted. The idea is to create a multi-generational, inclusive, and accessible area under the causeway, and offer additional amenities such as walking path, tennis court, pickleball court, volleyball, and so forth. Our specialty is auto fitness equipment, and we've been doing it for a very long time, and we have a very strong presence here in Florida. Some of the images you see right here are from one of the elements that was brought up is the offering to the teenagers. When it comes to a playground, the kids are pretty much done with the playground around the age of 5. The teenagers currently, unless they're into some sort of a athletic program, basketball, so forth, they don't really have much to do in open spaces. The Ninja courses offer that. Here's a quick
I come from a gymnastics background, which means functional fitness. There is such discipline, such routine, kind of the same thing over and over and over, which is great.
Here's the initial design, real quick. The idea was to take the open space underneath the bridge and divide it into different segments.
I'm just going to stop you for one moment. I just
Yeah.
want to make sure that we're following the protocol. I need a motion to extend for 15 minutes from someone.
Not a motion, Mayor,
Yeah.
just consensus.
Consensus? Okay. We have consensus?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes? Okay. Go ahead, sir.
Well, thank you. So we prepared a presentation that covers all the elements we thought you might be interested in this particular project. As you can see from these elements, you see the pickleball court, you see the volleyball court, basketball court, as well as a ninja course, multi-generational and accessible area, strong emphasis on accessibility for those in a wheelchair, and fun area for everybody. The blue area, did you see the dark blue, is basically a quarter of a mile of a walking path for those that I've seen actually walking in that area. Some of the functional fitness areas were basically take after the CrossFit movement, sitting areas, and a variety of elements such as parking spots and so forth. The design is basically follow some sort of a guideline we received before the meeting to cater to the entire community. And there are some elements in that particular project that need to be addressed, such as the pump as well as the public works area. And I believe that we addressed it. Some changes might be made by the architect later on. And those are the images that we want to share with you. And we even created a quick video that will come at the end, I believe, of this. And it's not. Or is it stuck? Is this HDMI?
It's Bluetooth, so.
Okay. Here we go. The city of Miami, Hallandale Beach, Boynton Beach, all those that basically encapsulate everything that we featured here, that you can actually see people actually using it. Some of it you saw already. I know we pressed in time, but the idea was to offer this design to you to review. There's no cost to you. It didn't cost you a penny, and hopefully you will consider that down the road. I brought some literature to share with you as well. If that's okay, I will give it to the city clerk. But if you have any questions for me, feel free. I know you are pressed in time as well.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? No? Okay.
No?
I just wanted to share with you the concept of the idea of the potential that we have under the causeway. Everybody knows that I've been very frustrated with the Park and Recreation Master Plan, and I feel that we are really losing time, and we have to start moving and doing something and creating something. It's true, I met with him in the Florida Legal Cities. I asked him if he could come and see, and and that's what he did. And I think we should consider and start, like I said, moving in the right direction to make something happen. For 1 year, I've been waiting for the master plan. Until right now, there is not a clear path or direction or what is it that is going to be done. And time is money, time is time. The kids are growing, they're going to college. So I think we have to start making decisions. And I appreciate you guys giving the time to listen to the presentation. And yeah, please, if you have anything paper to give us, I would like to see it.
I'll bring it up in a second.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is not architectural plan. This is a concept. Of course, it has to go through through an architect and engineer to make sure that we're in compliance with everything that has to be done in that area. But the area is large and can accommodate quite a bit of elements for the entire community, mostly the teenagers and the young adults.
Okay, thank you. Was this shared with the city manager?
Yeah.
Yes.
You have this? Okay, perfect.
Yeah,
if you can just leave whatever you have with the city clerk, that would be great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Vice Mayor,
Yes.
you're up.
Thank you. So regarding our intracoastal sports area, I believe that we had done work on that sports park prior to the master plan that we paid for.
Excuse me, Vice Mayor, could you speak into the microphone, please?
Yes. So prior to the master plan, we had done work. We did design work, architectural work, I believe. Susan, do you know offhand how much we put into that area prior to the master plan?
We have the conceptual design that was presented to you, and then it was put on hold after that.
Right. So how much did we spend on that?
I'm sorry, sir, I was not prepared for that today.
Okay. But there was a few thousand, several thousand.
A couple of tens of thousands,
Right,
yes.
exactly. So I believe that since we're stymied with this master plan right now, and we have spent tens of thousands on the intracoastal sports area, that we should proceed with that area since we are quite far ahead. We have concepts, I believe we're even ready to put shovels in the ground there. And hopefully I can have a consensus to break that out and move forward on that area. And I'd like to have some feedback if I could.
Okay. Any feedback? Commissioner Lammers?
So I do share the sentiment that, yeah, we should start moving forward with certain things. Because obviously the Parks Master Plan that we received, one, I think we should all have another workshop or discussion and start looking at it, because the whole of the Parks Master Plan, I think it's too much money.
Wait,
And
let me
we
just,
should
for
start-
clarification, we do have something scheduled.
Correct, yeah.
Right.
But I'm just thinking of the process. So I don't know personally if the entire master plan is going to be approved, or we should start looking at how to perhaps, bring down the cost and start breaking off certain things where we could start having some things, be contracted out and start being done. So, again, I don't think this is something that we should go ahead and do right now, but I am willing to entertain these conversations. We do have that Parks Master Plan outreach to the residents. I think it's mostly going to be, to families and the kids, right? Are we going to have another outreach?
There is one event scheduled,
In
which
November.
is November. Yes,
Correct.
that it goes from 3 to 8 p.m. starting early in the day, right after school, to get the families and have
Yeah.
activities for children so the parents can participate. But then into the evening so that working families, any adults, anyone can, we would hope to get all areas of our community
Is that
to attend.
are we going to have any more outreach events for
That is
the residents?
That is the final one, and then it'll come to you in November for a vote.
For a vote for approval of the entire plan?
Master plan, yes.
Of the entire master plan, okay. All right.
If I may?
We need to discuss that a little bit. So, but regardless, I think that we should take a step back, Jerry and Fabiola, take a look at the master plan, and I think if we want to start moving faster, also we need to start moving faster and take a look at that master plan and say, you know what, this I don't like, let's scratch this. This, let's see if we could bring this down, this price down. The water park, I don't like it. And take a look at what the master plan has, calls for the parks that you are mentioning.
If I may?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I asked this question when it was the presentation of the master plan, if it could change from our discussion or from the output of the people. And the answer was no. So I don't understand why is the people coming? Why are we going to sell them this idea? I have here the flyer of the event. I would like to know how much it costs this event. 5 hours of what? Of bouncers? I would like to know how much you are spending in this. It's like we are bribing the people to come and give an opinion of something that they don't have a say. Because regardless of what the people said during this outreach, nothing can change in the master plan. That's in my notes of what the question that I asked during the presentation. Can it be modified according to our input or the people input? The answer was no, unless I misunderstood. But as far as I know, there is ironclad, the master plan. We have to say yes or no. So we are bribing the people, again, to come for 5 hours, to jump in the bouncers, to give them prizes, and you name it. And then they're going to come in November. Oh, please, yes, we love the party. We want the master plan, without understanding probably the consequences of it. It's a yes or no thing, according to what I understood. So, again, and this comes to what I spoke before about the events, that we are not included in this conversation. I found this flyer outside in City Hall, and that's how I know that this is happening.
So can I just get clarification as far as the purpose of this event and what sort of input that we're looking for, and if you are able to respond, I know we weren't planning to have this discussion, but if you are able to respond, can you respond to the question of what can be picked out, changed, modified, or what is it the next steps? What are the next steps?
So first we wanted to have the public outreach and then the final to the commission. We changed that to make it to the commission first, then to the public.
Right.
At the meeting with the commission, we asked that all of you submit any of your questions by that following Monday. Mm-hmm. We did receive some, not as many as I expected. And we are working on a response to those. And yes, they would have input on the final, and that is why the material is called a draft. It's on the website as a draft. It is not the final.
So it's not
the
a final.
final will come to you at the November commission meeting.
Okay. So
based on your input at the commission meeting and the public's input in early November.
Okay.
But, I mean, from what I understand, maybe I'm wrong, we could make changes to that. If we say we don't want the water park at Heritage, we could take that out, right?
So the master plan, the concept of the master plan is that you have a comprehensive park system, not a park here, a park there,
Understood.
a park there.
Mm-hmm.
It's a park system. And what they're bringing to you is what they got from all of the public input and
Mm-hmm.
all of the outreach that they did, and based on best practices and trends throughout the country, throughout the world, actually. And so that's what they're bringing to you. At the end of the day, each of those individual projects are coming to you for approval. So they put a priority based on what the community has already said that their needs are, what their wants are, what we can do quickly versus long-term projects. So like the Greenfields project is a long-term, that's going to take a couple of years at least. So in the meantime, there are other things that you can do in the meantime that are more short-term. So, in the plan, the 197 pages does spell out like what you do sooner and while you're working. So while you're designing under the William Lehman, the Underpark, you're, very quickly doing something else, such as a tennis court.
But I need, hold on a second, Commissioner Lama, I need consensus for another 15 minutes because we're getting close to our, do we have consensus?
Yes, I'm okay.
Go ahead.
A very good example is the cultural master plan. If you go back and look at the cultural master plan, it had, all of these wonderful aspirational ideas. And of those, it has been a guide for special events and for arts. And we have, used that as a guide, but it is not the be-all, end-all, absolutely what we must do. So just because you adopted it as a master plan doesn't mean we could go to the transportation master plan that said bridges over Collins Avenue.
Right. We have many plans. Nothing says that they will be done exactly that way.
I personally like flexibility because obviously, there's budgets, there's other considerations. We're presented with a plan that it's $110 million. Maybe our budget within the next 2-3 years becomes prohibitive, right?
Correct.
We don't know what's going on. I think it's, like you said, it's a master plan. We're going to have the ability to change it. And then two, when we're talking about priorities, I think we should perhaps have another workshop and say, okay, we have an immediate need, look at the master plan, and then see how we could proceed to some of the ideas you could say. I'm in agreement with you, but I just want to make sure that we have a good conversation and we're not just, this needs to be conversed at length, so these are important decisions. I just don't want to get into a situation where, with the objective of doing something, then we haven't discussed as a commission certain things, because I might have other ideas, and that's why we stop whatever we're going to do in that sales office, right, in the south end of our city, because we couldn't come to an agreement on what to do. So I think we should have another discussion and give staff direction perhaps, and talk to staff and work together with them. I do agree, let's get moving on certain things, but let's not, make the mistake or perhaps with our anxiousness to get something done, forget certain things, or if we need to discuss this once a week, let's discuss it once a week. These are important decisions. And what else was I going to say? Also with the flyer, I learned about it. I saw the flyer as well. So can we just remember to make it standard procedure to send a calendar invite for any of these important events that are sponsored by the city? Not the ones that are done on a regular basis, but things like this. Please, let's make it standard procedure to send a calendar invite.
I think we've had that request before, actually.
I would actually like to see an overall annual event calendar.
That
we
was
have
provided during the budget.
Yeah, we have it.
Yeah. You know what? Yael used to send out like a calendar, can we do that again?
That comes from our office, and we routinely
calendar of
send
events?
out, yes, the calendar of events. It routinely goes out every month, but we'll make sure that everything
I haven't
is included.
seen it.
We're not
if
included.
I haven't seen
We're
it,
not included.
if I haven't seen it, it's my fault. But I haven't seen it.
No, you
I
haven't
remember
seen it because
Yael.
you didn't get it.
Okay,
I
so
never got it,
maybe
ever.
maybe we
Yes.
could
Never received it.
send the calendar invite so there's no misunderstandings, and then also send us that document that I used to get from Yael.
Okay.
And that was useful to me too, so I could, if there's events where I would take my children to or I would like to attend, I could plan it out. So please,
Okay.
I would really appreciate that.
Okay. All right. We've got nothing else to add. We
Well-
will adjourn.
I haven't heard from Jennifer regarding, you don't have any comment on the Intercoastal Park? Okay.
Okay, so we'll adjourn, and we'll see everyone here at 6:30. Thank you.
Okay.